Okay, so I've set up an example file. It just has these random dots that are just placed on the screen. You can see I have an array randomly positioned, and I'm just running through a loop and putting them on the screen. All right, so in this tutorial, what I want to show you is how to use a function called distance, or dist, to measure the distance from any point in here to all the other points on the screen, to figure out if we want to do something like draw a line from them, or later on we could measure the distance and apply forces to these little particles. But here we're going to do kind of a standard processing sketch where we've created little points in space, and then we're going to draw lines in between them. Right? So if I look up distance, this will probably give me the wrong one. If I look in the reference, let's see if I get the right one. Got the wrong one. Let's go to language. And calculations, distance. So the help doc went directly to the distance function for p-vectors, which you can use to a method for the p-vector class. But here I just want to use the standard distance function. And you can see it calculates the distance between 2 points, and we either put in x1, y1 to x2, y2, or if we're using three-dimensional coordinates, x, y, z, 1 and 2. All right? So hopefully you can see that on the screen grab. So let's go ahead and just delete that for now. So conceptually what I need to do is I need to go through this array of points and measure them. That's kind of why I have stored them in arrays, so that I have them in memory. And then later on I could apply forces to them and make them move around the screen. So conceptually though, how do I want to go through these lists? Well, the first thing I need to do is go through point by point, select one, and then check the distance for all the other points around it. So the first for loop that I'm going to use is just to select this point. And then the second for loop will go and select all the other points on the screen and check their distance. And then the first for loop will select a new point, and then the second for loop will go and get all the circles on the screen, or little points in space. So to simplify, instead of typing all that out, let's just copy, paste, and let's put our little end bracket there. And let's paste again. Let's put our little closing brackets, and since this is nested, we're already using I, so now I'm going to use J. And let's hit Command T to auto format. Let me run that again, make sure I don't have any errors. Okay, everything's working fine. So stop that for a second. So now what I need to do is look for that distance. And in the help docs here for the example file, you can see that they created a float called d, and then they are just measuring a distance from the width and height divided by 2 to the mouse x and y. So what we want to do is distance, float d equals, and then we'll go ahead and find a distance. So the distance is going to be x and y. And we're using the I for loop to select 1. And then we're going to go through the rest of this using j. So this would be x again, but this time j, and y, j. All right, so it's still running, not having any errors. So it gives me a distance, but what am I going to do with that distance now is the question. So let's say if, I can't type today, if d is less than 25, let's do something. In this case, let's draw a line from the first point to any of the other points that are within that distance. So let's copy that. Let's auto format that a little bit there. So there's that if statement. And you can see that it's drawn those lines to those points. I don't like how thick the lines are, so right up above here maybe I'll put stroke. Let's just copy from there. Stroke weight. But let's make this 0.5. All right, so this is kind of a classic processing look where you have little points in space being connected based on their distance. Now, right now we're using just 25. We could also make that interactive if we wanted to. Let's just say mouse X. All right, as you can see, that as I'm making it a greater distance, these points are searching through space and finding more points within that threshold, right? There are lots of little things. You could also put a minimum threshold, so points too close to each other would not draw little lines. And from a redraw standpoint, this can start to get a little sluggish when you're drawing thousands and thousands of lines on the screen, right? So just keep that in mind. All right, so this is a classic look at processing's distance function. It's even used in this little banner across the top of processing. So this should be something very familiar that you've seen in processing. Anyways, hope that helps.